Someone has decided to marry you. And the ring is waiting. Ring red heart sparkles. Don't skip. Listen carefully. It began on a morning that looked no different from hundreds of others. Soft golden sunlight slipped quietly through the curtains. A cool breeze drifted through an open window carrying the scent of fresh rain, blooming flowers, and newly cut grass. Birds welcomed the sunrise with cheerful songs. Neighbors greeted each other while collecting newspapers. Children laughed as they hurried toward school. The local cafe filled with the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Everything appeared wonderfully ordinary. Nothing hinted that someone, somewhere, was reaching one of the biggest emotional decisions of their life. Not because destiny had suddenly appeared. Not because of mysterious signs. Not because the future had already been written. But because one heart had quietly become ready for something it had once feared. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful life changes often begin with quiet personal growth rather than dramatic moments. For a long time, they believed love was supposed to feel effortless. They imagined that one day everything would suddenly become clear. That uncertainty would disappear. That fear would vanish. That every answer would somehow arrive at exactly the right time. But life had gently taught them something different. Love isn't built on certainty. It is built on trust. Not perfect trust. Growing trust. Trust strengthened through honesty, patience, forgiveness, and countless ordinary moments. That realization stayed with them. Because your heart needs this right now, because healthy relationships grow stronger through daily choices rather than perfect circumstances. That morning, instead of rushing through another busy schedule, they made themselves a warm cup of tea and sat beside the window. Outside, the world continued moving as always. A father patiently helped his young daughter tie her shoes. An elderly woman carefully watered colorful flowers outside her home. A mail carrier smiled while waving to familiar neighbors. Simple scenes. Quiet moments. Nothing extraordinary. Yet somehow every small act reminded them of something they had almost forgotten. Love isn't measured only through grand declarations. It lives inside ordinary kindness. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest relationships are built through everyday care. After breakfast, they reached toward an old notebook resting quietly on a nearby table. The notebook had traveled with them through many seasons of life. Some pages held dreams. Others contained disappointments. Several were filled with questions. Many carried lessons learned the difficult way. Turning each page felt like meeting earlier versions of themselves. The hopeful version. The uncertain version. The impatient version. The wiser version slowly beginning to appear. Instead of feeling embarrassed by old mistakes, they smiled gently. Every page represented growth. Because your heart needs this right now, because every lesson contributes to the person we are becoming. On a fresh blank page they carefully wrote, "If I ever choose to share my life with another person." The sentence stopped there. For several moments they simply stared at those words. Then another sentence slowly appeared. I want that choice to come from love, not loneliness. Another followed. From respect, not pressure. From friendship, not fear. Reading those words surprised them. For years they believed commitment began with finding the right person. Now they realized something different. It begins with becoming the right kind of partner. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting commitment begins with personal character. Later that morning they decided to walk through their favorite park. The towering oak trees stretched toward the bright blue sky. Gentle breezes moved softly through their branches. The peaceful lake reflected drifting white clouds. Children chased butterflies across open fields. Families laughed beneath picnic blankets. Everything invited stillness. They found the familiar wooden bench overlooking the water and quietly sat down. No phone. No distractions. Only quiet observation. Because your heart needs this right now, because slowing down often allows life's deepest lessons to become visible. Nearby, an elderly couple sat hand in hand watching ducks glide across the lake. They didn't speak much. Occasionally they smiled. Sometimes they simply enjoyed the silence together. Curious, they couldn't help noticing how peaceful they seemed. After a while the elderly man quietly turned toward his wife. "I still enjoy mornings with you," he said. She smiled. "So do I." Nothing dramatic. No elaborate speech. Just honest appreciation. Watching them, your soulmate realized something beautiful. Perhaps lasting love isn't built through constant excitement. Perhaps it's built through continuing to choose each other on ordinary Tuesdays. Because your heart needs this right now, because enduring relationships are strengthened through consistency more than intensity. As they continued walking, they noticed a small jewelry shop beside the park entrance. The display window reflected the afternoon sunlight. Several simple rings rested inside the glass case. Nothing flashy. Nothing extravagant. Yet each ring represented something remarkable. A promise. Not perfection. Not certainty. A promise. Standing there, they quietly reflected. A ring by itself changes nothing. Its value comes from the commitment it represents. Daily kindness. Daily honesty. Daily patience. Daily forgiveness. That realization stayed with them long after they walked away. Because your heart needs this right now, because commitment is demonstrated through everyday actions. The afternoon quietly unfolded. A young father taught his son how to ride a bicycle. The child fell several times. Each time the father encouraged rather than criticized. Nearby, two strangers helped an elderly woman carry heavy grocery bags. No applause followed. No recognition. Just kindness. Watching these moments reminded your soulmate that love often appears in practical ways. Helping. Listening. Encouraging. Remaining present. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine love is often expressed through simple acts of service. Later they returned to the familiar bench beneath the oak tree. Opening the notebook once more, they began writing again. Today I realize that marriage is not the finish line. It is the beginning of a lifelong conversation. A conversation built through listening, through forgiving, through growing together, through laughing together, through facing difficult seasons side by side. Each sentence felt less like a dream and more like a purpose. They no longer imagined commitment as a fairy tale. They saw it as a daily practice. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships thrive through intentional effort. As afternoon slowly became evening, the golden sunlight reflected across the calm lake. Children packed away their toys. Families folded picnic blankets. The breeze became cooler. The peaceful park gradually settled into silence. Looking across the water, they quietly reflected on the dramatic title of this story. Someone has decided to marry you. And the ring is waiting. A gentle smile crossed their face. The ring wasn't meant to predict the future. It symbolized readiness. Readiness to communicate honestly. Readiness to forgive. Readiness to support another person with patience and respect. Readiness to continue growing instead of expecting perfection. That realization became the biggest decision of all. Because your heart needs this right now, because healthy relationships begin with hearts prepared for commitment, not simply hopes for romance. As darkness slowly settled across the neighborhood, they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, countless stars quietly filled the sky. They opened the notebook one final time before bed. Across a fresh page they carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will become a little more patient. Tomorrow I will become a little more grateful. Tomorrow I will become a little more understanding. Tomorrow I will continue preparing my heart for the kind of relationship built on trust rather than fantasy." Then they paused before writing one final reflection. If I ever place a ring on someone's hand, or if someone someday places one on mine, I hope it represents more than a beautiful moment. I hope it represents years of choosing honesty over fear, forgiveness over resentment, kindness over pride, and partnership over selfishness. Those are the promises that truly make love endure. They gently closed the notebook. Outside, the stars continued shining. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would come. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in a long while, they realized that the most meaningful commitment didn't begin with a proposal. It began with becoming someone capable of offering genuine love, unwavering respect, and lasting kindness. Don't skip. Listen carefully. The morning after that unforgettable realization arrived with remarkable peace. The sun slowly climbed above the horizon, filling the room with warm golden light. A cool breeze drifted through the open window carrying the scent of blooming flowers after an overnight rain. Birds greeted the dawn with cheerful songs. The neighborhood slowly awakened. Someone opened a small bakery on the corner. A newspaper landed gently on a front porch. Children laughed while walking toward school. Everything looked exactly the same. Yet inside, something had quietly changed forever. The idea of commitment no longer felt like a distant dream. It felt like a responsibility. A beautiful one. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting love is built through responsibility as much as romance. They prepared a simple breakfast and sat quietly beside the window with a warm cup of tea. For several peaceful minutes they watched ordinary life unfold. An elderly man patiently swept fallen leaves from his driveway. A young mother helped her son zip up his jacket. A neighbor paused to help someone carry heavy grocery bags. Tiny moments. Simple gestures. Yet every act quietly reminded them of something important. Love rarely announces itself with fireworks. More often, it appears in everyday kindness. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine love is revealed through consistent actions more than dramatic moments. After breakfast they picked up the familiar notebook. The cover had become worn from months of reflection. Its pages held hopes, questions, disappointments, gratitude, and lessons learned through experience. Turning each page reminded them that every season of life had contributed something valuable. The difficult seasons had taught patience. The joyful seasons had taught gratitude. The uncertain seasons had taught humility. Every chapter had prepared them for this one. Because your heart needs this right now, because every experience shapes the person you are becoming. Opening to a fresh page, they carefully began writing. What makes someone ready for lifelong commitment? They paused. At first they expected complicated answers. Instead, simple words quietly appeared. Listening. Respect. Patience. Forgiveness. Honesty. Kindness. They smiled. The list wasn't dramatic. Yet somehow it felt complete. Because your heart needs this right now, because healthy relationships are strengthened through simple virtues practiced consistently. Later that morning they returned to the familiar park. Tall oak trees stretched toward a cloudless blue sky. Gentle breezes moved softly through the branches. Sunlight shimmered across the peaceful lake. Families gathered beneath the shade. Children chased butterflies through colorful gardens. Everything invited them to slow down. They found their favorite wooden bench overlooking the water. Instead of reaching for distractions, they simply observed life. Because your heart needs this right now, because slowing down often allows wisdom to quietly catch up with us. Nearby, a young couple worked together assembling a picnic table. Several pieces didn't fit correctly. They laughed. Started over. Helped one another. Neither blamed the other. Neither became impatient. Watching them reminded your soulmate that successful partnerships aren't built because problems never appear. They're built because people solve those problems together. That realization quietly settled into their heart. Because your heart needs this right now, because teamwork strengthens relationships far more than perfection ever could. As they continued walking, they noticed an elderly jeweler carefully polishing a simple wedding band inside a small shop. Curious, they stepped inside. The jeweler smiled warmly. Holding the ring gently between his hands, he quietly said, "People often admire the diamond. Very few notice the circle." Your soulmate looked puzzled. The jeweler continued. The circle has no beginning and no end. It quietly reminds us that commitment isn't about one beautiful day. It's about choosing one another every ordinary day afterward. Those words lingered long after they left the shop. Because your heart needs this right now, because commitment is renewed through everyday choices. The afternoon slowly unfolded. Golden sunlight warmed the walking paths. An elderly couple shared sandwiches beside the lake. Children laughed while feeding ducks. A musician softly played an old guitar beneath a nearby maple tree. Only a handful of people stopped to listen. Yet he smiled with every song. Watching him reminded your soulmate that love doesn't require constant applause. Its greatest beauty often appears in quiet consistency. Because your heart needs this right now, because faithfulness shines brightest through ordinary moments. Later that afternoon they sat once again beneath the old oak tree. The notebook rested quietly in their hands. Today's page filled more easily than ever before. If love is ever placed into my hands, I will protect it with honesty. I will strengthen it through patience. I will encourage instead of criticize. I will listen before assuming. I will apologize before pride grows. I will celebrate ordinary days just as much as extraordinary ones. Reading those promises brought a peaceful smile. Not because they expected life to become perfect, but because they finally understood what truly mattered. Because your heart needs this right now, because strong relationships grow through ordinary habits practiced faithfully. As afternoon gradually became evening, they wandered toward the lakeside path. Nearby, a grandfather patiently taught his grandson how to fish. Hours passed. Very little happened. The child eventually asked, "Why do we keep waiting?" The grandfather smiled. Because some wonderful things cannot be rushed. Those simple words echoed deeply. Trust cannot be rushed. Friendship cannot be rushed. Healing cannot be rushed. Neither can lifelong commitment. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest foundations take time to build. Golden evening light slowly covered the lake. The breeze became cooler. Families packed picnic baskets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. Everything settled into peaceful silence. Standing beneath the old oak tree, they quietly reflected on the title. Someone has decided to marry you. And the ring is waiting. They smiled softly. The ring represented something much greater than jewelry. It symbolized readiness. Readiness to communicate honestly. Readiness to forgive quickly. Readiness to remain loyal during difficult seasons. Readiness to continue growing together rather than growing apart. That realization mattered far more than any proposal ever could. Because your heart needs this right now, because the greatest commitment begins inside the heart long before any ceremony. Returning home after sunset, they placed the notebook beside the window. Outside, stars slowly filled the peaceful sky. The room felt wonderfully calm. Turning to one final page before bed, they carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will continue preparing my heart. Tomorrow I will choose patience. Tomorrow I will choose humility. Tomorrow I will choose gratitude. Tomorrow I will choose kindness. Tomorrow I will continue becoming someone who deserves the trust of another person's heart. They paused for several quiet moments. Then added one final reflection. A proposal may last only a few beautiful moments. A wedding may last one unforgettable day. But the promises that truly matter are the ones quietly kept every ordinary morning afterward. If I ever wear a ring, or someday place one on another person's hand, I hope it reminds me daily that love is not proven by words alone. It is proven through listening, respect, patience, forgiveness, encouragement, and choosing one another again and again. They gently closed the notebook. Outside, countless stars filled the night sky. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would arrive. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in many years, they no longer dreamed only about a wedding day. They dreamed about building a lifetime filled with compassion, trust, gratitude, laughter, and quiet acts of love that would continue long after the celebration ended. Several quiet mornings had passed since that life-changing realization first entered their heart. Nothing dramatic had happened. No surprise proposal. No mysterious message. No life-changing announcement. Instead, life continued exactly as it always had. The sun still rose slowly over the horizon. Birds still welcomed the dawn with cheerful songs. The neighborhood slowly awakened as familiar routines began once again. Children hurried toward school with backpacks bouncing behind them. A cafe owner unlocked the front door while the comforting aroma of fresh coffee drifted into the street. Neighbors exchanged friendly greetings while watering gardens or walking their dogs. Everything appeared wonderfully ordinary. Yet beneath that ordinary surface, something extraordinary continued growing. Not excitement. Not certainty. Something much deeper. Readiness. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest relationships begin long before two people exchange promises. They begin when each person chooses to become someone capable of keeping them. That morning they stood beside the window holding a warm cup of tea. Instead of rushing into another busy day, they simply watched the sunrise. Golden light slowly stretched across rooftops. Clouds reflected shades of pink and orange. The breeze gently moved the branches outside. Watching such simple beauty reminded them how often they had hurried through life searching for extraordinary moments while overlooking the quiet miracles already surrounding them. For years they believed love would someday transform ordinary life. Now they realized something different. Love teaches people to appreciate ordinary life more deeply. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often creates the happiest relationships. After breakfast they reached once again for the notebook that had quietly become part of every morning. Its pages no longer felt like random thoughts. They had become a map of personal growth. The earliest pages spoke of uncertainty. Middle chapters carried difficult questions. Recent pages overflowed with gratitude, lessons, and quiet promises. Turning through them, they smiled. Every mistake had taught wisdom. Every disappointment had developed patience. Every season had contributed something valuable. Nothing had truly been wasted. Because your heart needs this right now, because even difficult chapters often prepare us for beautiful ones. Opening to a fresh page, they slowly began writing. What kind of partner do I truly hope to become? The question lingered. For several minutes no answer came. Then, one sentence quietly appeared. Someone who brings peace instead of pressure. Another followed. Someone who listens before reacting. Someone who protects trust. Someone who celebrates another person's victories as joyfully as their own. Someone who chooses kindness even when life becomes difficult. Reading those words filled them with quiet hope. They realized they weren't preparing for one unforgettable day. They were preparing for thousands of ordinary days afterward. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting love is strengthened through ordinary faithfulness. Later that morning they returned once more to the familiar park. The old oak tree still stretched confidently toward the bright blue sky. Its branches gently danced beneath the breeze. The peaceful lake reflected drifting clouds. Families gathered beneath shady trees. Children laughed while chasing butterflies through flower gardens. Everything invited them to slow down. Finding the familiar wooden bench beside the lake, they quietly sat. There was no hurry. No distraction. Only stillness. Because your heart needs this right now, because quiet moments often reveal life's deepest lessons. Nearby, a young couple carefully planted flowers together in a small community garden. One dug holes. The other placed seedlings into the soil. Neither rushed. Neither complained. Each encouraged the other with small smiles. Watching them reminded your soulmate that healthy relationships aren't built because every task is exciting. They're built because ordinary responsibilities become meaningful when shared together. The lesson stayed with them. Because your heart needs this right now, because partnership grows stronger when people work together rather than keeping score. As they continued walking beside the lake, they noticed an elderly watchmaker repairing an old pocket watch. Tiny gears rested carefully upon his workbench. Every movement required patience. Curious, they asked, "Doesn't this take a long time?" The watchmaker smiled kindly. The things people value most are rarely repaired in a hurry. Those simple words echoed deeply. Trust requires patience. Communication requires patience. Forgiveness requires patience. Commitment requires patience. Anything truly valuable deserves careful attention. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships flourish when we invest time instead of searching for shortcuts. The afternoon unfolded peacefully. Golden sunlight reflected across the calm water. A young father patiently taught his daughter how to ride a bicycle. Every time she lost balance, he smiled. "You're getting better. Keep trying." Watching them reminded your soulmate that encouragement builds confidence far better than criticism. Perhaps marriage worked the same way. Not two perfect people. Two imperfect people encouraging one another to keep growing. Because your heart needs this right now, because the healthiest relationships create safe places for growth. Later that afternoon they wandered toward a small jewelry shop near the edge of the park. The display window sparkled beneath the afternoon sun. Simple wedding bands rested beside elegant engagement rings. For several moments they quietly observed them. The rings themselves were beautiful. But suddenly another thought appeared. The value of a ring isn't measured only by precious metal. Its greatest value comes from the promises quietly lived after it is worn. Morning conversations. Shared responsibilities. Acts of forgiveness. Patient listening. Daily encouragement. Those invisible promises mattered far more than jewelry ever could. Because your heart needs this right now, because commitment is proven by everyday actions rather than one memorable moment. Returning once more to the bench beneath the old oak tree, they opened the notebook again. Today's page filled more quickly than ever. If I ever promise forever, I want forever to include ordinary mornings, simple dinners, shared laughter, patient conversations, mutual respect, growing older without growing apart, choosing gratitude even during difficult seasons. Reading those words brought unexpected emotion. Not because they imagined a perfect future, but because they finally understood what truly deserved their attention. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful love is built through thousands of ordinary choices. As afternoon slowly became evening, families packed picnic baskets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. The breeze became cooler. Golden sunlight transformed into soft shades of orange, pink, and violet. Standing beside the peaceful lake, they quietly reflected on the title of this story. Someone has decided to marry you. And the ring is waiting. At first it sounded like dramatic news. Like a surprise waiting around the corner. Now they smiled. The deeper message wasn't about predicting a proposal. It was about preparing a heart. Preparing to become someone who values communication over assumptions. Kindness over pride. Forgiveness over resentment. Humility over ego. Service over selfishness. Those qualities mattered far more than any ceremony. Because your heart needs this right now, because becoming the right person is more important than simply finding the right person. The evening sky slowly darkened. Stars began appearing one by one. Returning home, they placed the notebook beside the window. The room felt wonderfully peaceful. One final page remained before bedtime. Slowly they wrote. Tomorrow I will continue becoming someone worthy of another person's trust. Tomorrow I will continue practicing patience. Tomorrow I will continue speaking honestly. Tomorrow I will continue expressing appreciation. Tomorrow I will continue protecting every relationship through kindness. They paused. Then added another reflection. A ring does not create commitment. Commitment gives meaning to the ring. If love ever invites me into a lifelong partnership, I hope my daily actions speak louder than beautiful promises. I hope I continue choosing respect during disagreements, gratitude during ordinary moments, forgiveness after mistakes, and hope during uncertain seasons. Those quiet decisions become the true foundation of lasting love. Reading those words filled them with peace. Not because tomorrow had become certain, but because their direction had become clear. Before closing the notebook, they looked out the window one last time. The stars quietly filled the night sky. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would arrive. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. For the first time in many years, they no longer dreamed only about finding lasting love. They dreamed about becoming someone capable of giving it generously, protecting it faithfully, and nurturing it patiently every single day. Because your heart needs this right now, because the greatest love stories are not written in one extraordinary moment, they are written through countless ordinary acts of honesty, compassion, loyalty, and kindness. They gently closed the notebook. The room became still. Outside, the stars continued shining. And with a grateful heart, they rested peacefully, knowing that the most beautiful promise they could make was not simply to love someone tomorrow, but to become a person who chose love, integrity, and grace every day. Don't skip. Listen carefully. The final morning of the journey arrived with a quiet kind of beauty. The first rays of sunlight stretched across the room, painting everything in warm shades of gold. A cool breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the scent of blooming flowers after a gentle overnight rain. Birds welcomed the new day with cheerful songs. The neighborhood slowly awakened. Someone opened the small bakery on the corner. A gardener watered colorful flowers. Children laughed as they hurried toward school. Everything looked wonderfully ordinary. Yet inside, something extraordinary had finally settled. The questions that had once filled every quiet moment no longer demanded immediate answers. The heart that had once searched for certainty had finally discovered peace. Not because every dream had already come true. Not because the future had suddenly become clear. But because they had learned that the strongest relationships begin long before a wedding day. They begin with character. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting commitment is built on who we choose to become each day. That morning they prepared breakfast slowly. There was no rush. No pressure. Only gratitude. They carried a warm cup of tea to the window and watched the sunrise. Golden light covered the trees. Birds flew across the brightening sky. Neighbors smiled as they greeted one another. Tiny moments. Simple moments. The kind of moments they once overlooked. Now those ordinary scenes felt deeply meaningful. They realized that marriage is not made extraordinary by one celebration. It becomes extraordinary through thousands of ordinary mornings shared with kindness. Because your heart needs this right now, because everyday moments become life's greatest memories. After breakfast they picked up the familiar notebook one final time. The cover showed signs of use. Every page carried part of their journey. The earliest chapters held uncertainty. Later pages contained lessons. The final pages overflowed with gratitude and quiet promises. Only one blank page remained. They smiled gently. The notebook had never predicted the future. Instead, it had quietly recorded the transformation of one heart. That transformation mattered more than any destination. Because your heart needs this right now, because personal growth is the strongest foundation for every meaningful relationship. Later that morning they returned to the peaceful park where so many lessons had quietly unfolded. The old oak tree still stood proudly beside the lake. Its branches swayed gently in the breeze. Families gathered beneath the shade. Children laughed while chasing butterflies. An elderly couple sat together feeding birds. Friends greeted each other with warm smiles. Nothing dramatic happened. Yet everything felt meaningful. Walking beside the lake, they noticed how calm the water had become. Gentle ripples reflected the blue sky. Watching the water reminded them that relationships are much like a peaceful lake. They reflect whatever we consistently pour into them. Patience creates peace. Kindness creates warmth. Honesty creates trust. Gratitude creates joy. Because your heart needs this right now, because the atmosphere of every relationship is shaped by daily choices. Nearby, an elderly craftsman carefully restored an old wooden bench. The wood had faded with time. Some boards had cracked. The paint had worn away. Yet he worked patiently. Board by board. Piece by piece. Curious, they asked. Why spend so much time restoring something so old? The craftsman smiled. Because things built with care deserve another chance. Those simple words remained in their heart. Relationships are often the same. No one lives without misunderstandings. No one avoids mistakes forever. But relationships strengthened through forgiveness, patience, and honest conversations often become stronger than before. Because your heart needs this right now, because restoration is one of love's greatest gifts. The afternoon quietly unfolded. Golden sunlight reflected across the peaceful lake. Nearby, a father taught his young daughter how to ride her bicycle. She fell. She laughed. She stood again. Instead of criticizing her mistakes, he celebrated every attempt. Watching them reminded your soulmate that encouragement helps people grow. People flourish where they feel supported. Where they feel heard. Where they feel appreciated. Because your heart needs this right now, because love grows strongest in environments filled with encouragement rather than fear. Returning to the familiar bench beneath the oak tree, they opened the notebook to its final blank page. For several moments they simply watched the breeze move through the trees. Then they began writing. Today I finally understand what commitment truly means. It means choosing kindness even during difficult conversations. It means protecting trust through honesty. It means listening with patience. It means celebrating another person's victories as joyfully as my own. It means forgiving before resentment grows. It means remaining faithful to love even on ordinary days. Reading those words brought a quiet smile. Not because they believed every future challenge would disappear, but because they now understood how they wanted to face those challenges. Together. With compassion. Because your heart needs this right now, because commitment is revealed through ordinary choices repeated over time. As afternoon slowly became evening, they wandered once more beside the lakeside path. The golden sunset painted the sky with beautiful shades of orange, pink, violet, and gold. Families packed picnic blankets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. Birds returned to their nests. Everything gradually became quiet. Standing there, they reflected on the title of this story. Someone has decided to marry you. And the ring is waiting. They smiled softly. The ring wasn't the true ending. It was only the symbol. The real story had always been about becoming someone prepared to honor that promise. Prepared to communicate. Prepared to forgive. Prepared to keep learning. Prepared to love with maturity instead of fear. That realization became the greatest gift of all. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest commitments begin with a heart ready to grow every day. As darkness gently settled across the sky, they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, countless stars shimmered overhead. They placed the notebook on the table and opened it one last time. Across the final page they carefully wrote, "If I have learned anything from this journey, it is this. Love is not proven by one unforgettable moment. It is proven by countless ordinary moments. Marriage is not built by a ring alone. It is built by respect. By patience. By honesty. By forgiveness. By laughter during difficult days. By choosing each other again and again." They paused before writing one final reflection. Whether my future includes marriage, lifelong friendship, or simply another opportunity to become a kinder person, I choose to live with gratitude, compassion, humility, and hope. Those qualities are never wasted. They strengthen every relationship and quietly shape the person I become. They gently closed the notebook. The journey had reached its final page. Outside, the stars continued shining. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would come. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in a long while, they no longer focused on whether a ring would ever appear. Instead, they focused on becoming someone worthy of the promises that a ring represents. Because they had discovered the greatest truth of all. A beautiful proposal may last a few unforgettable minutes. A wedding may last one remarkable day. But a loving partnership is built across thousands of ordinary mornings filled with patience, respect, honesty, gratitude, and kindness. And perhaps that is the most meaningful love story anyone could ever write.